3, 2, 1.
Hello and happy Sunday. Hope you are having a good day. We are getting started on week 7 of the NFL season. Actually kicked off on Thursday. And again, we have the final of the London games, last early international game for a couple of weeks. So something to keep an eye on. But first, let's dive in and talk about Thursday night football. They called it the Icy Hot Bowl because it was Aaron Rodgers and Joe Flacco facing off, two quarterbacks over 40, but it ended up being kind of a spicy bowl, if you ask me. A 33-31 Cincinnati Bengals victory. The Bengals, the closest team actually to the Steelers in the AFC North, which is surprising because they came in at 2-4. They had lost 4 straight games since Joe Burrow's injury, but Flacco helping arrest that, moving them back to 3-4. Steelers 4-2. Still have a pretty sizable lead, but definitely a setback for them. Aaron Rodgers continues to look for those tight ends. Pat Freiermuth finally kind of getting off the schneid. He had 1 for 11 in week 6. He had 5 for 111 and 2 touchdowns on Thursday night. Also, Jonnu Smith got a touchdown early. Darnell Washington getting in the end zone, only 2 yards receiving on 3 receptions, but one of those a touchdown. So that is kind of what you're looking for. Jaylen Warren, I thought, got going a little bit, maybe a product of the defense they were facing, but 16 for 127. Probably more surprising, Chase Brown got going, 11 carries, 108 yards, 9.8 yards per carry, had 2 receptions for -8, so that was less robust. But still a better night for Chase Brown than what we've seen during this season. Probably a sign this Pittsburgh defense continues to struggle. They gave up 108 to Chase Brown rushing. They gave up 342 to Joe Flacco passing, including 16 for 161 and a touchdown for Chase, 6 for 96 and a touchdown for Higgins, getting those guys going. Noah Fant gets into the end zone too with Mike Gesicki and Tanner Hudson out. So a very exciting game, but what about the rest of the games that are yet to come this week? Well, let's talk about games of the week. The first game up is the finale from London. This is the third and final London game of the season. The Los Angeles Rams at the Jacksonville Jaguars. No Puka Nacua for this one, but still should be a pretty good game. In the early window, the game I like the best, the 4-2 Philadelphia Eagles coming off 2 straight losses, looking to try to get back on track, facing the 3-2 Minnesota Vikings. Going to be Carson Wentz again, facing his former team. Vikings coming off of a bye. This is kind of a crucial game for both teams as the Vikings want to stay in contention in the North. Meanwhile, the Eagles, as I said, need to get back on track. The afternoon window, the Indianapolis Colts at the Los Angeles Chargers. At 5-1, the Colts have the best record in the AFC. If the playoffs started today, they would be the number 1 seed. The Chargers would win the AFC West at 4-2. So this is a battle of division winners who are up near the top in the AFC. Hard as it is to believe, can Indiana Jones keep it going on the road against the Chargers, who nearly lost to the Dolphins last week? Sunday Night Football, the Atlanta Falcons at the San Francisco 49ers. Hey, and guess what? George Kittle is coming back, so that is some big news for the 49ers. The Falcons coming off of a pretty impressive win over the Buffalo Bills last week, trying to get back on track. There is a doubleheader on Monday, the one that I am most excited to see, the 5-1 Tampa Bay Buccaneers at the 4-2 Detroit Lions, second consecutive primetime game for the Lions. Can they get a win here? The Buccaneers have been rolling, 5-1, off to a good start, but we shall see if the injuries finally are taking a toll. We know they're not going to have Godwin. We know they're not going to have Bucky Irving. Emeka Egbuka considered a long shot. Mike Evans considered also something of a long shot, but may have a chance to play. So how many more weapons can Baker Mayfield lose and just keep this team rolling? We shall see there. So those are some of the games that I'm excited to see this week. What about some of the lineup options that you may be wanting to make this week? Well, Week 6 of the season didn't do too bad. My start suggestions were Bo Nix, Rico Dowdle, DK Metcalf, and Jake Ferguson. Look, for Nix, it started well and then kind of evaporated. So 3-1 there, but I do feel like Nix wasn't a bad call. I just didn't realize the Broncos offense was going to die against the Jets. My sits were Joe Flacco, Derrick Henry, Jacoby Myers, and Zach Ertz. Was not as good, was not as good in this range. Joe Flacco had a better day than expected, but still wasn't top 12. So I got that one. Jacoby Myers continues not to get the volume. So those were good. But Derrick Henry got back on track. The Ravens were terrible, but he rushed for over 100 yards again. So that was a miss. And Zach Ertz really getting involved back to kind of 2024 form last week. For the Commanders, was it a 1-week deal? I guess we will find out. So 2-2 in sits, 3-1 in starts. Overall, not terrible, 5-3. Let's go over the sit starts this week. 1 start, 1 sit at each crucial position. We will kick off with quarterback. And, after a couple of seasons of Mahomes not looking like Mahomes, after 6 weeks, he is actually sitting at QB1 again. That is kind of where we had come to know him when he first got started. He's had 27 or more points in each of the past 3 starts. Now he gets Rashee Rice back and he's facing the Raiders. He is definitely a great start this week. Meanwhile, I am sitting Tua Tagovailoa for the Miami Dolphins. You'd like to be able to start Tua against a woeful Browns team. You'd like to. And you might be tempted to in super flex, but the Browns have a good defense. Tua has a problem with flinging the ball to the other team. And he's been embattled since a post-game press conference that was just not flattering last Sunday. I'm staying away from the Dolphins, particularly in the face of 50-mile-an-hour wind gusts, which they could get this morning. At running back, I am going to Christian McCaffrey. I talked about some of the beat-up San Francisco 49ers. When we went into the season, we weren't sure McCaffrey was going to be healthy enough to start week 1 or to stay on the field at all. And after 6 weeks, he's seemingly the healthiest 49er carrying that offense. He's RB1. He figures to carry the load again, as there are no locks among the wide receivers. George Kittle working himself back in there, so he should be in for you. My sit is Ken Walker. No one knows exactly what's going on in the backfield for Seattle, but it's clear that Walker's role has been cut back. He's only had 50% or more of the snaps in 1 game, and that was the week that Zach Charbonnet was missing on offense. When they're both healthy, Charbonnet plays on 3rd downs. He plays in the hurry-up offense. He plays in the red zone. That doesn't add up to a lot of great things. Walker is barely sitting at running back 2 with an RB24 total after 6 weeks, and I just don't like the trend, so I am not trusting him in week 7. What about wide receiver? Well, give me some Devontae Adams. As I mentioned, Puka Nacua is out. He's off to an amazing start, but he's not there, and Adams has been just fine playing alongside him. Wide receiver 14 through 6 weeks. With Nacua banged up and not in the lineup, I think Adams is the pass catcher you want, and I think he is about to go off. Meanwhile, the pass catcher that I am out on and sitting out is DJ Moore of the Chicago Bears. Look, Moore has been their best receiver for the past couple of years, but he's sitting at wide receiver 51 through 6 weeks. He's maybe still a flex consideration, but he's just not getting consistent enough volume to be a top 24 receiving option. And this also coming off of a short overnight stint in the hospital that remains a little bit nebulous. So he's definitely a little banged up. There are just better options for Chicago. What about tight end? Well, I'm going to the rookie well, and that rookie is Harold Fannin Jr. of the Cleveland Browns. He's sitting at tight end 12 through 6 weeks. He's getting consistent volume, and he's actually been even stronger the past 2 weeks with Dylan Gabriel in the lineup. The Browns are actually favored at home against the Dolphins, and I think Fannin will continue to produce, so he is in for me. Out of the lineup for me, a sit is second-year tight end Theo Johnson going up against the Denver Broncos. You'd like to be able to play a tight end who is in the mix for targets. He was great in week 5, but he did nothing against the Eagles in week 6. Now he's playing Denver. They've been smothering opponents. It is not a great matchup. It is not a great situation for the Giants pass offense. I just don't see enough volume to make him a solid and reliable option. So those are some of my sit start suggestions. We will end with picks against the spread. Last week I was 6-9. That brought me to 45-48. I went with the Steelers -5.5, and that turned out to be a bad choice. So I'm 45-49 as we go into Sunday. Let's hope I can pick it up. I'm taking the Rams -2.5. Makes me a little nervous that Nakua is gone, but I still think they are a better team and can win by at least a field goal. I'm taking the Saints +5.5. I think Chicago gets the outright win, but Chicago has not been winning by a wide margin. I did take the Cleveland Browns -2.5 at home over the Dolphins. As I mentioned, I'm kind of out on these Dolphins. The Titans became the first team to fire a coach after they let go of Brian Callahan. Mike McCoy steps in, supposedly going to simplify the offense. They got T'Vondre Sweat back. Everything is trending up for Tennessee right now. I'm taking the Patriots -7.5. I think they cruise in Mike Vrabel's return. I went back and forth. It's a big spread, but I'm taking the Chiefs -12.5 at home against the Raiders. The Raiders have looked bad. The Chiefs offense has been picking it up. And as I mentioned, the Rashee Rice of it all. I took the Eagles -1.5 in Minnesota. Minnesota has a decent chance here, but I think the Eagles have to win, and they will be on it to get that win. I took the Carolina Panthers -1.5 on the road at the New York Jets. The Jets have just been bad, and Garrett Wilson is now out, so that leaves them kind of bereft at wide receiver. The Panthers are a better home team than a road team, but I think they can get it done. I took the Giants +7.5 against the Broncos. I am taking the Broncos to get the outright victory. But Denver, another one, they play them close to the vest. I think that spread is just too much. I took the Colts +1.5 against the Chargers. I didn't think the Chargers looked particularly good last week against Miami. I think the Colts can get a win. I took the Dallas Cowboys +1.5 at home over the Washington Commanders. No Debo, no Terry McLaurin, and CeeDee Lamb is back. I like this Dallas offense. I took the Green Bay Packers -6.5 on the road against Arizona. No Kyler Murray, maybe, or maybe that doesn't matter. The Packers haven't been consistent, but I think they can get this win. I took San Francisco -1.5 at home against Atlanta on Sunday Night Football. I think Atlanta a better home team than a road team. I took the Buccaneers +5.5 on the road against the Detroit Lions Monday night. I think the Lions will get the win, but I think this one is going to be tight. And I took the Seahawks -3.5 at home against the Houston Texans as the second half of that Monday night doubleheader. The Texans' offensive line, a little bit of a question mark. Seattle has a very good pass rush. I know the Texans had a good offensive game going into the bye week, but that was against the Baltimore Ravens. I don't think it's going to be the same against Seattle. And Seattle's own offense has been cooking up a little bit. So I think this could be a tough game for the Houston Texans. Been a tough and curious season. They're third place in their division. They seem a pretty far way off of the playoff race, and I'm not sure it gets any better on Monday night. So that'll do it for the picks against the spread. That'll do it for the Week 7 preview. Hope you guys are having a wonderful weekend. We'll see you guys next week. Probably coming to you a little early on Saturday next week to preview all of the action. There is no London game, so that'll be fun as well. But until then, hope you guys have a wonderful weekend.